So we're talking to Raf. Give me a wave, Raf.
Hello, hello. Can you hear?
We can. Um,
Can you
Raf's,
all hear me?
yeah,
Yep. And
Raf's
can you hear
been a
me?
bit. Yeah, I can hear you. Raf's been a bit poorly.
You'll have to, I apologize. My face is a complete mess at this moment in time, which is why I'm not on camera. So I really, really do apologize.
Bless you.
I am, first things first, I just want to say I'm honored to be here because listening to all of you guys speak has absolutely just literally blown my mind. And what else to say? But it's true, you do secretly run the world because like this is just it's been incredible and it's really been an honor to be invited. I love that you are the connecting force that's brought us all together, and I really like to be a part of something like this is incredible. Dr. O, excuse my language, but fuck, that was incredible. And to hear you be so honest and raw and open about your entire journey has that like it's just yeah, wow, like
Thank
really.
you.
No, thank you. All of you. And there's so many things that everyone said today that I'm like, this literally connects to everything that I want to talk about today. So I hope I can keep it coherent and tight. I wrote so many damn notes on this. So I'm going to try to keep it really succinct so that the point sort of really comes across. So today, what I want to talk about is the future of spirituality and the coming shift of consciousness, because I really feel that that's what's taking place. So, to talk about my journey, I am an astrologer, tarot reader, numerologist, and energy worker. I'm also an FLP practitioner, very proud to say as well. I remember being invited to speak on Anne's show on Facebook in 2018. And that's kind of where this started for me. And I remember her shooting me into the future. And one of the first things that came up that was really prevalent, and this is why this is so amazing, just hearing Dr. O talk about what she talked about, was that the medical world and the psychic and spiritual world had started to fuse. In the future, they were actually one and the same. They weren't separate things. They were like literally, you couldn't see a doctor who didn't have a spiritual element to them, and you couldn't see somebody that was just about the spiritual that would allow you to kind of look at the medical side of it.
Mm.
So to hear all of that kind of come together there, for me is just absolutely amazing. Now, the reason I start with this is, as I believe it, human beings really are the bridge between heaven and earth. And we, as our human body and even our brain, all of it comes from earth, but we're organic beings, right? But that organism is powered by an energy. And that energy is what touches to everything and everything out there that's considered the all, the cosmos, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I genuinely feel that our mental capacity is starting to shift and to change. And the reason I loved Marilyn's question was absolutely incredible about the telepathy. Once upon a time, and this I'm going to try to keep this sort of succinct. Once upon a time, if we go back to 2007, the first iPhone comes out and it completely changes the game, right? It brings a whole new level of connectivity into the world where we're able to really connect to each other easily, quickly, and just really pull it all together. Um, I'm going to share my screen. I don't know if you can see this. I've got some slides so that you're not just looking at my face. Um, and the reason that I feel that this is important is when you think about the internet, it's actually modeled, and I don't know if anybody else knows this, but the human brain is also modeled. Sorry, the internet and computers are all modeled on the human brain. So that tells us that we as a species are infinitely more vast than anything that anything that we can create. We're really just sort of modeling what is naturally us, which is incredible. It doesn't sound that long ago, right? But when you think about it, like it's insane. And the reason I say this is because in astrology, we consider that anything that's considered technological or advanced or avant-garde is really considered the realm of Aquarius, right? I'm sure you've all heard of the age of Aquarius and all those kinds of concepts and ideas. But what we know to be sort of more succinct is when something becomes so commonplace and so everyday, it actually moves into the realm of becoming something that's ruled by Gemini and not Aquarius, because Gemini is the sign that rules communication, conversation, interaction, coming, backwards and forwards, using our brains, using our words. It's emails, text messages, phone calls. It even represents the flow of information via, like literally the internet, because it's become something that's so commonplace. Now, I promise I have a reason why I'm going down this route. I will get to a point. So if things are moving in that direction, there's a really big event that's going to be taking place in 2025. There's multiple big events, actually, astrologically speaking, that will take place in the year of 2025 and go into 2026. This really is a monumental year where we are going to see massive shifts, huge transformations. And the reason I wanted to talk about this Gemini idea is that the planet Uranus is going to dip into the sign of Gemini. What that means is that, so to give you an example, Taurus rules our food, Taurus rules the environment, Taurus rules the earth, it also rules money. Uranus, the planet of change, disruption, rebellion, it represents more equilibrium when it comes to government. It represents more freedom. It represents breaking of the old structures. Is currently in Taurus. It's been there for the last 6, 7 years. Look at what we've had in the last 6, 7 years. We've got digital currencies. We've got Franken foods that are created out of God knows what anybody knows that's gone into them, right? All of these things around our earth, around our food, they're all starting to be disruptive. How things have been done up until this point over the last 6, 7 years have really, really shifted. So when Uranus comes into the sign of Gemini, the sign of communication, the sign of the mind, the sign of how we interact as human beings. And the truth be told, as organic matter, truth of the matter is we're no separate to our animal brethren. We're really not. The only thing that we do differently is that we can speak and we can write. That's really what sets us apart from them. So what happens when the planet of electrical and impulses and energies and frequencies moves into the sign of the human mind? Oh, telepathy is going to be just scratching the surface. I have no doubt that over the literally the next 10 years, we're going to see an uptake and a spike in people developing all kinds of incredible ways of communicating. We can see this now. People are starting to really understand how they are wired differently, or they're picking up different types of information. I don't know if anyone's heard of the phenomena of synesthesia, where it's where some people can hear they can hear numbers, or they can smell words, or taste frequencies and stuff like that. It's where your senses kind of they work in different ways. I think this is going to be something that really starts to evolve for a lot of us. Now, there is a reason that I'm talking about this, I promise. All right. And the reason I say this is in 2018, my original talk on spirituality was this idea that whether you worked as a CEO or a boss, or you scanned and stacked shelves in Tesco's, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with. I did my fair share of a stint, right? If you could still tap into and be a very spiritual being. You didn't have to be sat on a mountain somewhere chanting Om. You didn't have to be wearing special clothing to be tapping into spirituality. You're already a spiritual being by your very nature, because you are the bridge between heaven and earth. You're already connected to the cosmos. Now, if the human mind is being upgraded, and we're able to communicate with each other on deeper levels and touch on deeper frequencies, then it stands to reason that the way that we treat each other is also going to shift as well. Not because you're able to communicate with someone without words, but also you're going to start to understand how people feel. I don't know if anyone knows this, but like with the military people, like when they train people to do snipers and stuff, they say to them, don't look people in the eye when you're taking people out, because it literally, once you've got that human connection, it's impossible to do because you can see the sentient being in that other person. It becomes that much harder for them to do that kind of work. So in terms of moving forward, what happens when the mass populace can communicate across time and space with just their minds? Jojo, right? What happens when they tap into their innate spiritual potential to the point that anyone who doesn't have empathy is the person that's actually the odd one out? The world becomes a hugely, vastly different place that is kinder, more spiritual, more potent. What happens when we can literally, as a populace, feel that our leaders and our politicians are lying to us and then go on to actually boycott them and take action to say, we want people who say what they mean and mean what they say? We've got a whole generation of younger people coming up, and there's a lot on both sides that can be argued, but we're seeing this idea of sensitivity really coming through. And I actually think that this feeds really powerfully into what Dr. O was saying, and actually to what Marilyn's point was about telepathy. When you're overstimulated, your first response is, shit, I got to shut all of this out because it's driving me mad. So you desensitize yourself because you're getting too much at once. It's kind of like that scene in Superman, right? When he's just starting to learn to use his senses and he's getting everything all at once. And he has to learn how to filter it all out one by one. I need to see, and this is something that you really helped us with on the FLP course. Look for the future that you want to see. You're going to get multiple, you get different fractures of time that you can receive. So select the one that is the highest for you. Pick the right thread. So if we've got all of these people that are coming into and online to their gifts, and we're coming into, and I remember putting out a video in 2019 on the true nature of empaths that definitely ruffled a few feathers because I put forward the idea that it's not enough to just be a good person. You also have to be tough. You've got to be tough enough to do what needs to be done. And sometimes that means standing your ground. Sometimes it means telling people no. Sometimes it means taking to the streets to demand more from the people that govern us. Whatever that might look like, it really is a baseline level of community that comes together. The new generations are a lot more sensitive than those of us that have got a few more miles on the clock, right? But they definitely have something right, and that is a sense of empathy. So one thing that I've noticed is in all of the abundance courses and things that I've taken, and I think the reason that this is important to mention, I also took Anne's course on, it was Ultra Abundance, she called it. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. One of the most amazing things in all of these courses that I've ever taken is that once people understand, like on all of these courses, they all say to you, imagine you've got everything that you need. Imagine that all your needs are met, you've got all the money in the world, you can do anything that you want. The first thing, and I kid you not, in every single book, in every single course, and every single person on Anne's Ultra Abundance course literally said, how can I help the world? That was the first thing that they thought of, was something outside of themselves. And that's how I know that this is going to create a change, because when we start to become more empathetic, when we start to be more intercommunal, when we start to be more aware spiritually of what and who we are and where we come from and how we can tap into that to literally create a better world, everything starts to change because we collectively just demand more from the people that we are effectively under. Now, I don't know if you'll remember this, Anne, but going back to 2019, I remember doing an FLP session in the apartment that I was in at the time. And I remember like doing the session, and I got to September, and I remember thinking this was right at the beginning of 2019. And I got to September, and I was like, yeah, there was like this really weird black spot. It was like I just couldn't see anything. And from there, I remember thinking to myself, okay, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. So I probed a bit more and I asked the energy and I said, what's going on here? And the only answer that I got was, it will start in the east and it will usher in a world of peace. So we get to January of 2020 and we have Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn come into a conjunction in the sign of Capricorn, which represents society as a whole. Okay, I'm thinking, well, something's going to kick off here, but I'm not entirely sure what. And I remember thinking, well, maybe my gifts are offline at the minute. Maybe I'm on the fritz in some way. Fast forward to March, the whole world goes into lockdown. And that time was an incredible time of peace. Think about how quiet the world was for a moment when we all had a chance to really stop and reflect on our lives, who we are, where we're from, what we're doing, what's important to us. Think of how many relationships ended, how many people quit their jobs. And it wasn't just because people were cooped up for so long. It was because we were really forced as a collective to look at what was actually important to us. And we started to realize that it wasn't what we thought it was. So, as we move forward, we've got some really big, and I mean monumental astrology taking place this year. One of those is going to be that Neptune will move into the sign of Aries. Neptune is a decidedly spiritual and transcendental energy. It's about the higher mind and how we connect to the larger consciousness. It's how we really start to meld with the cosmos, if you like. Now, that sounds really sort of out there as a concept, but think about this. It's coming into the sign of Aries, which represents the sign of the self, right? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It represents me, myself, my identity. And with Neptune coming into that space, the human race is really going through effectively what I'm calling, and I don't really like this word because it's got lots of religious connotations, but it's effectively because Neptune rules the seas. Neptune rules water. We're being washed clean or cleansed in some way, and we're being made that much more sensitive. We're being made that much more spiritual, that much more aware, that much more aligned. Now, on top of that, Saturn will also move into the sign of Aries. This is a very interesting combination because Saturn doesn't necessarily like to be in Aries. However, when it comes into the sign of Aries, which is also the sign of war, it does make me wonder if Saturn represents structures and rules, regulations. It represents delays. It represents something being inhibited. It does make me wonder if we're going to start to see the lessening of this stuff, where the collective kind of looks at everything and says, actually, no, we're not signing up for that next war. We're not really interested in that. We want to create something different. We want to create something better. We want an energy that's going to be good for people. I think moving forward over the course of this year, it's going to be like definitely life-changing for everybody in some way, shape, or form. We skip forward to July, and that's when we have Uranus move into the sign of Gemini. This is going to be upgrading our human potential in so many incredible ways. And the reason I mentioned the technological part of this earlier is I don't actually think we need to be afraid of AI and technology. And there's a reason for this. what happens when we can take all of the things that are, what's the word that I'm looking for, necessities, and have them passed over when we don't have to focus. Jojo mentioned Star Trek earlier. Thank you so much for the plug. Right? When we don't have all of those menial tasks to do and we are not distracted by having to just survive, we can hand that stuff over to AI. We can hand it over to the computers. We can hand it over to the technology. And then what really comes forward is we as a collective start using that higher mind to say, well, since we don't have to worry about scrimping and saving on that bottom rung anymore and worried about the basic survival, let's turn our minds and our energies and our hearts toward higher pursuits. This is where we start to really think about, okay, now we can do more because there's so many things that are already taken care of for everybody from the ground upward. So, 2025, with all of its big astrology, I think is really the start. It's the moment where things really start to shift. And I say this because we're in a universal 9 year in terms of numerology. This is all about completions, culminations, closing cycles down. And it's also about replacing things. A lot of the time, people say to me, like, oh no, does that mean I can't do anything new in a 9 year? And I say to them, well, it's not great for starting things brand new, but you can definitely replace something that's outdated. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this year, the replacing and the removal of things that just don't work anymore, that are obsolete. And it starts with this year, which is going to be a truly groundbreaking year. So I've tried to keep this succinct because, as I say, I had so many notes that I wanted to talk about, and Anne was like, "No, no, you haven't got that time." I was like, "Okay, I'll keep it short. I'll keep it sweet." Does anyone have any questions? I'm totally open for that, and I would love to hear some of your thoughts.
We have got some comments here. Well, don't forget, Raf will be doing much longer version tomorrow, 2 o'clock. So and I've put the link online. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Where are we? Get well soon, Raf. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
That's from Marilyn. Jake said big Leo energy. Yeah.
That's my ascendant poking through.
Marilyn, 2007 doesn't sound that long ago. However, the chronological clock is ticking. Uh, Marilyn said, yay, me, aka Taurus. Yeah. um, Richard, see music in colors, etc. Miriam said, my son sees the alphabet in color. And where are we?
Yeah, excellent. All of
Where's
these
it?
things like that heightened awareness and perception where we start to gain and gather information in new ways.
Yeah. Marilyn said, this is very interesting. November 2019, I said something was coming in 2020, and they would try and silence the voices of those in the empowerment, natural health, and personal development field. Yeah.
And
Uh,
you were bang on. Look at everything that happened. Do you know, I put 3 videos out on YouTube about natural ways to combat whatever was floating about at the time, and all 3 of them got flagged up and pulled down.
it's really interesting. I've just had something pulled where I said the fires out in LA. I smell a rat. I don't think they are just natural thing, and they could have been stopped and blah blah blah. Put it within minutes, it was taken down. So
Done.
that's
Yeah.
it.
That's like when you touch too close to the bone, they rip you out.
Yeah, took it out. I'm going to appeal. But yeah, it's yeah.
I responded to that, Anne, because I've got a theory on that as well. And I
I, put it up. Actually, put it on there and see if it holds because
Oh,
yeah.
but it got taken down because I checked it when I commented on what you said.
Oh,
There's,
okay, yeah. Oh, okay. I'll
there's
see if I
something
can get it back up because
I've spoke to someone in LA about it. It's there's definitely they're building a super city in 2028,
well,
and it was
I put that up there, and I've been putting online the pictures of super cities, so they need to raise it to the ground. And in other countries, they use ocean water. My friend's place burnt down. It's a house on the beach. and they're not allowed to use ocean water as if there's not enough. As if there's not enough. In Greece, they have a lot of fires. They dump loads of ocean water. The trees grow beautifully. They got lemon, olive, orange trees everywhere in these fire zones. The trees grow. It doesn't stop the thing. But what it is doing is killing a lot of animals. All those animals there are dying in the fire. There must be thousands of animals dying. Nobody's giving them, and it's all the water's diverted. Don't get me on this to save some obscure
Also,
fish. Hmm?
also, State Farm decided to cancel in October 70,000 insurance
Yeah,
cases.
yeah, yeah.
So
I'm talking.
very convenient that now
Yeah.
all these things or fires have now happened.
Yeah, exactly. It happened 3 months before it happened. I'm talking to my friend later who's lost a beautiful place on Miami Beach and he's devastated. So, and he's very dramatic when he's devastated. So it's going to be a lively
Yeah.
conversation. So, Jenny, what you just said about collective action and the young, I'm a grandmother. I've joined many of the London marches for peace in the last year, and the collective compassion and energy is truly life affirming. My brother said the same thing. It's just that collective people, so many young as well as old, of every background, every faith or none. And it truly feels like a beautiful solidarity, rejecting the current system based on military machine and money. It's almost like a collective soul. It's the amazing counterbalance to the negative news. Yeah, fact, people, I've got friends and family that go on the marches and they come back invigorated. But it's that connection with people. Louise, fantastic. Thank you. Ban me. I hear about the activation of the dormant chromosome in humanity this year. Is that what you sense in astrology?
I do wonder if that's the case, and there's a reason for this. If you think back to 95 to 2003, that was when Uranus moved through the sign of Aquarius. That's when we got the internet and all the rest of it. But as that happened, if you look at that era, look at how many kids who had developed things that were considered because their bodies were hypersensitive.
Mm.
So if it's gone through Uranus, it means it will have updated and upgraded. Uranus going through Aquarius would have updated our nervous system. We will have needed that upgrade in order to be able to pull in all of the new energies that come forward, right? So when you think about it's gone through the sign that represents humanity as a whole, it makes us more interconnected. It brings us the internet, but it makes us that much more sensitive on a nervous system sort of energy. It then goes through Pisces. As it moves through Pisces, it upgrades what we consider the collective soul. It moves through Aries. It really revolutionizes this idea of identity and self. In fact, we got Instagram under the Uranus in Aries transit. So that kind of gives you an idea of how that happens, right? As it's coming through Taurus, it's upgrading our environment and our interaction with our environment. And so now that it comes, and our bodies actually, so now that it's come into the sign of the mind, I do think we are getting an upgrade of some sort for sure. I really, really do. Love that question.
Can I just add something? Something I've seen for quite some time, and I think it is in 100, years. I think there's new emerging blood group. Because when you think blood group O was the original blood
Yeah.
group, that's the cave people. Then A came with the farmers. I think we're getting ready for a new blood group, and as you said, a different frequency, a different energy, and it will be more telepathic. I'm going to look into that more, but I've been picking up on this for a while. Right,
Mhm.
let's have a look. Read the fires. They did exactly the same yes, they did. I don't know how to say it. Maui. Coincidentally, people resisting the smart city plans and the homes that burnt down there were historically protected. Yes, absolutely happened there. Marilyn, Maria, what is the best month this year? We can work with the energy for the greatest positive influence. And thanks for your insights, Raphael.
It's a good question. I mean, it depends, like if this is for something specific, but in terms of like just greatest positive impact, like as a gathering,
Mm.
um, I really like the idea of Jupiter in Cancer, and that begins on June the 7th. It starts June the 7th. So from there onwards, we've got Jupiter in Cancer, which is what's known as its exaltation. It's going to do really incredible work there. It'll bring a lot more protection to the family, a lot more protection to women in general. And because cancer represents nurturing and home, security, and again, feeding and all of those kinds of things, I think there'll be, and because Jupiter represents protection. So it's going to bring a much more protected idea around what traditions actually need to survive and what ones need to be upgraded, because Jupiter is also a planet that represents the visionary. So I think we're going to get this really interesting mix of both positivity, but also, no, no, that's off limits. We're happy to change, we're happy to adapt, we can do this, but this bit actually we need to keep intact because Cancer's a very traditional sign in a lot of ways.
Mm. That's really interesting about the protection of women because it's a hot topic right now. So I presume from that Andrew Tate won't end up Prime Minister of England.
Oh, I fucking hope not. Sorry, excuse my language, but I really like the level of dislike is I can't. I just
So,
can't.
somebody, sorry, but then somebody posted up a video saying what he does to women. They posted it up, and it's him talking to his little incel followers, saying how he throws a woman up against the wall if she argues, how he grabs her by the face, how he'll break her face. And I mean,
He's
this
never
is
met
the
a woman from Slough, then, has he?
he hasn't, he hasn't. I wish he'd have met Mandy Hawk. She'd have taken him out easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Mandy would
Grew
have
up in
taken him
Liverpool,
out.
though. He grew up in Liverpool, though. You expect him to be a bit more wary of what he says about women.
Well, the thing is, he's already, it's like Jimmy Carr, the comedian, said, the joke that ruins my career is already out there. Because what things you joked about years ago that nobody batted an eyelid now will get you cancelled. He says the joke that cancels me is already out there. Andrew Tate's made loads of these videos and they're really, really terrible. And so he wants to be Prime Minister of England. But yeah, protection of women though, 'cause this is a very interesting, it's a hot topic right now. It's a very big topic. For lots of different reasons. And obviously, I know Kelly J. Keane, who's probably the biggest pioneer in the world for protecting women. She's very powerful, 4'1", 5 foot nothing, tiny little thing, little dynamo, all about protecting women. It's a big hot topic right now. So it's an interesting that you said that. Maybe this will be a breakthrough time. It's funny because Raph, I just mentioned this because some of the astrologers said Trump wouldn't win because it's all about women, and the new time we're in. And what I said, because I know people that have worked for him, he employs a lot of women in absolutely key positions. And people don't know that because you never hear it, and the media will always say other things. But I've met some of his executives, and they're all women going, "Nobody give me a break. The guy gave me a break." So I think the female energy, though, I mean, he could get taken out in the next 10 days, but I think it's more, he's going to put women in positions of power. And I think people like Kelly J. Keane will come to more prominence. I think it's more, not necessarily it's him or Camilla. It's not down to them. People always put it down to personalities. I think it's
No,
more
absolutely. I
uh,
agree with you wholeheartedly. You know what? And what's really funny is the one of the things in Chinese metaphysics, we're in what's called period nine.
mm,
And that's 20 years where basically feminine energy rules. And so this is one of the things that I actually thought might sway it in her favor.
mm,
What when you shared that piece of information before, I found it really interesting. And the other part of it is, so he's tapped into the energy of the feminine energy that's he's surrounded himself or insulated himself in it.
yeah.
And on top of that, by bringing Elon Musk in, he brings a very Uranian element into his campaign. Trust me, if this guy doesn't have an astrologer, he's just really freaking lucky. Yeah, I'm telling you, like this guy, he's clearly got somebody that knows how to use this stuff to his advantage because that piece of information about surrounding himself with women, I didn't actually know. But when you told me, I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense.
It makes
He's
sense.
tapped into it.
And he's always done it. I spoke to somebody about 20 years ago who said I couldn't get a break. She said, I'm Muslim, I'm black. I couldn't get a break in America. Nobody would, I'd get so far, and then a white guy would get the job, even though no, they're not as qualified or not as good. This was her words. This is not me giving an opinion. And she said, I went and worked for the Trump organization. He was horrified that I'd been held back and immediately put me executive in a certain part of the world. She was running something for him. That's when she came to see me. Then she started telling me and introducing me to a few others. So that's when I became aware. Because I think he doesn't necessarily see male, female, color, race, sexuality. I don't think he sees anything. I think he just sees the person for the job because
Hmm.
when you look at him, he often said that person's doing a great job. I think he just positions people. I don't think he's weighing up what sexuality they are or who they are or age or anything. I don't think he takes, I think he just finds the person for the job. It's like, that's what he does. He needs people in key positions. So let's have
Does
a look.
Tate have a question? Because he's got his hand raised, so I just wanted to.
Oh,
Have
oh yeah.
you been waiting all of that
Oh,
time, buddy?
sorry, Tate. I didn't see. Do carry on.
can barely recall the question because I've just been listening to all that's being said. It's so interesting. But just two things. Well, firstly, Raph, I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
The first question is, I mean, I was amazed on New Year's Eve the number of people that just dropped me a message saying a very happy new year to you. I hope it's better than 2024, which has been absolutely rotten. I've never seen anything like it. So the first question is generally, are people going to be happier in the year ahead? And the second question is going to be, what's going to happen to the ruling Labour Party in the year ahead? Because I think everyone just sees that they are an absolute joke. They are a shambles. And I've never known a PM with such a low level of confidence after such a short period of time after being elected. I mean, if you could talk about that, please.
I will certainly do my best. So I'll keep it brief because I don't want to eat into Marilyn's time, and that's definitely something we don't want to miss. But in answer to your first question, do I think 2025 is going to be a better year? Well, we'd have to really define that. But what I am going to say is it's a 9 year. We are going to see endings, we are going to see completions, we are going to see crescendos. There's no getting around that. There will be a closeout of many things. Who is happy about what is closing is going to be the bar that they measure that by, right? So the other part of this is because we're going into a 9 year, nine in terms of its numerological energy is a lot more compassionate by its very nature. So even if it doesn't necessarily look like we all get the Christmas presents that we hope for on the wider world stage, the people, the community of the world will definitely be doing way more for each other, will definitely be pulling more together. And the thing is, I don't know if anyone's heard that song by Birdie, People Help the People. When the catastrophes happen, who is it that comes forward? It's the communities. We all help each other. It's very rarely the big dogs at the top that come in to do whatever. We do it as a collective. I think we're going to see a lot more of that next year. In terms of will it be a good year or a kinder year? I think on a community level, yes. I think on a global level, we're definitely going to see some interesting fluctuations. So I hope that's a diplomatic enough answer. In terms of the Labour Party, I will weave the answers that I have for that into tomorrow's talk.
That'd be
Because
interesting.
I don't want to take too much of Marilyn's time because I know this is going to be awesome.
Thanks,
Well,
Raph. That was
Oh, my
excellent.
pleasure,
Thank you.
man. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
And thanks, Anne, for having me.
amazing. Always, always. Stop this.